So Mary couldn't go back to work under her real name. At this point, like, her name, Mary Matlin, had been published in newspapers all over the country. They were all over the story. The papers talked about how dirty and diseased she was, and the name Typhoid Mary had become like a bit of a joke. It was a punchline, like with my doctor. So same thing, different times. So she knew like nobody would hire Mary Matlin. So she had to use different names. For 5 years, Mary took jobs wherever she could find work. I mean, at restaurants, hotels, throughout like New York and New Jersey. And eventually she ended up employed as a cook at the Sloan Maternity Hospital. Yeah, maternity hospital. Now, in March of 1915, that hospital had an outbreak of typhoid. Oh no, Mary. Oh, what are you doing? I know. Now, 25 people, most of them were nurses and doctors, they became ill. And then it was said that like 2 people had died. Now, the head gynecologist at Sloan Hospital picked up the phone and made a call to someone who was known for being great at tracking down disease outbreaks. That's right, Dr. Soper. Man. So Dr. Soper, he comes in to the maternity hospital, and this day that he comes in, Miss Brown, or AKA Mary Matlin, she wasn't working. She was off. So Dr. Soper was like snooping around, and I guess he saw something that was very interesting. He saw a recipe that was written in Mary's handwriting. And I guess he immediately like recognized the writing as Mary's because, she was like, she needed to pass the time while she was on that island, and she would write him threatening letters. So he was like, I recognize that handwriting. That's Mary. So Dr. Soper, he hung out and he waited for her to come back to the hospital. She had to come sometime. But Mary like must have gotten word of like what was going on because she gone, vanished, poof. Bye. She's like, nope. So Dr. Soper and stuff, they were able to like find Mary through friends. And I guess she was staying at like a friend's house on Long Island. Now, police go out there and stuff. And apparently they recognized her because of her distinctive walk. Dr. Soper described how she, quote, walked more like a man than a woman. He just like really did not like her. He's just like, bro, chill. Okay, but the cops show up to this friend's house where like Mary was at, and they bring backup because she has a reputation for fighting. But Mary was surrounded once again, and she just didn't have that same fight in her anymore. She was 46. She was tired. They got her into custody, and then they ended up sending her back to that familiar little cottage on North Brother Island. And this time, she was there to stay. Now, at this point, no newspapers or anything. They had nothing nice to say about her. You know why? Because she was working at a maternity hospital, so around babies and pregnant women, knowing that she was infected, and to them, that was selfish, other words that I can't think of, and they just like ripped her to shreds. Her life was like officially over, and I think she knew it. So Mary would end up spending the next 23 years of her life living in isolation on the island. It was said that she kept busy sewing, crocheting, baking, reading, becoming friends with the staff. I mean, she really had no choice. There are only people around. And then in 1918, the hospital would allow Mary to go on like day trips to New York. So she would go visit the few friends that she had left, and then she would return to the island in the evening. Which is weird if you think about it, because if they think she's infecting everyone, why would they let her leave still? That's weird. It's just confusing. It's like, I don't know, right? It's just like, what? Well, one of Mary's friends on the island was Dr. Alexandra Plavska. I think I got that. So she trained Mary in lab work, and the hospital gave her a job as a lab assistant. And Dr. Plavska would have like Mary over for dinner, and it would be like her and her daughter. Her daughter's name was Julie. And Julie described meeting Mary saying She was a part of the family, and we really loved her. Julie also described Mary as having, quote, loving eyes. And it was like, finally, someone had something nice to say. Geez, Louise. This whole time, it's just everyone was so mean. Julie also said that after Mary would leave, her mother would boil all the dishes, to disinfect them, just in case. Be safe. Well, one day in 1932, Mary didn't show up to work. And this was like very out of character for her. She was known to be like a reliable worker. She was never late. They were like, what else is she doing? She can't say she was stuck in traffic. So they go looking for her. And that day, they discover Mary on the floor of her cottage. I guess she was paralyzed after suffering from a stroke. Now, after this, she had lived in the hospital bed for like 6 years. She died in November of 1938 without ever experiencing symptoms of typhoid fever. Mary was buried in St. Raymond Cemetery in the Bronx. And you can actually go see it. If you go see it, take a picture and send it to me. Send me pictures. I'm always asking you guys to send me pictures, and I never get any. So someone do it for me. Thank you. I want to see it. So in the end, Mary was linked to the infection of at least 122 people. Now, 5 of those people ultimately died of the disease. But here's something wild. You see, while Mary was living on North Brother Island, there was another carrier of typhoid who was living and working in New York. Yes. Now, this man, his name was Tony Labella, he was also completely symptom-free. Now, Tony was a farm worker, but after he was discovered as a carrier, he was forbidden from handling food. He was linked to 87 typhoid cases, and 2 of them ended in death. Now, this Tony guy, he didn't listen to instructions, and he went right back to work. He left New York and he went to New Jersey, and while he was there, he caused like 35 more cases, plus 3 more deaths. Now, he was held in isolation for 2 weeks, but then he was released and he got to just live his life. So that was weird. And then there was also another man who worked in bakeries and restaurants who was also a carrier. He was told not to handle food, but he did it anyway. So when he was caught making a strawberry shortcake, which is super cute, right? He was brought before a judge. That judge said that he couldn't send him to jail and he would leave it up to the Department of Health. So this guy, I'm sorry, I forgot his name, but he was not forced to live in any kind of isolation. He just got to live a normal, free life. So, what I'm getting at is it turns out like there were typhoid Johns, typhoid Tommies just running around the East Coast, and they never had their lives ruined like Mary. So why is that? Is the question. So in some cases, I guess the health department was more lenient with like these carriers because they were men with families to support. So they're like, oh, it's fine. You could do whatever you want. Yeah. Talk about a double standard.